I'm going to show you today how I transformed my living room with these 7 easy steps, creating a modern, cozy, and aesthetic vibe that I absolutely love. So if you're into home decor and renovation, then stay tuned for this major transformation at the end of the video. Hi, I'm Natasha, and if you're new here, I create food and lifestyle content. Today we're diving into a bit of home decor, which is one of my favorite topics, so thank you for stopping by. I want to share with you my living room transformation journey and how we went from this to this using these 7 easy steps. I'm going to walk you through all the details, so if you're interested, definitely keep watching. The first step I have for you when it comes to doing a living room transformation is decluttering. Make sure you declutter. That's one of the first things we did in general when we started our renovation for our home, but specifically for the living room. You want to start with a blank slate. You want to get rid of things that you no longer love, and you want to just prioritize the options with furniture or decor that's really going to make you fall in love with your space all over again. And so get rid of things that no longer serve you. That is my biggest tip when it comes to starting with a blank slate. Just get rid of it, declutter, and start fresh. Step 2. Paint the walls. Now, I know painting can seem a bit daunting for some folks when it comes to doing transformations and redoing a space, but honestly, that is the biggest differentiator in making a space look as beautiful and as warm and as cozy as you would like without investing too much. So definitely find a paint that you love, do different swatches, and make sure it's something that's going to be complementary to all the furniture and all the decor that you want to be in your living room. Our living room, we went with a blank slate. The color that the living room was before, I will definitely share at the end of the video. But we wanted something to kind of lighten the space up, something that would be timeless and beautiful. And we ended up going with Greek Via by Sherwin-Williams, and we love it. It's such a beautiful kind of like whitish, creamish color that isn't like a stark white, but is definitely a clean slate to do as you will with the decor. So that is my number 2 tip, is get the paint, sis. Step 3 is invest in quality furniture that you love. Now, I know the first part of redoing a space, you kind of get overwhelmed, right? Like you want to get everything and get it quickly and get the project from start to finish in a, quick fashion. However, definitely take the time to figure out pieces of furniture that are going to serve you, serve the space, and do exactly what you need it to do. And so for me, I knew from the very beginning that I wanted a huge sectional, enough that if we had friends and family over, that we could all be on the couch together and no one has to sit on the floor or on a side chair or whatever the case might be. So I've spent a lot of time thinking through what type of sectional would be best for our space. Now, we ended up going the custom route, so working with a wholesaler. The name of the brand of our couch is Revelation by Uttermost, and Uttermost is a company that makes a ton of different home decor pieces and furniture pieces, and basically you can just come up with the swatch that you want, the fabric that you want, the size of the sectional that you want. And so the custom route, which might seem a little bit unorthodox for some folks, definitely is accessible. You just have to know in your head what you're looking for to be able to go through the process as efficiently as possible. The pricing definitely varies. Some places like a Crate and Barrel, a Pottery Barn, the big box stores that we know and love, sometimes those sectional pieces can actually be more expensive than going the route of finding a custom piece that will serve your space in a more specific and intentional way. So that's definitely my big tip here, is to know what kind of furniture is going to be best suited in your space, and to take the time and don't rush through it. Find something that you are obsessed with, that you love, that you can't live without, and that's going to definitely serve you in the long run. The other pieces in our living room that we absolutely love, we have one side chair. This is a kind of like faux leather, kind of like library side chair, if you will. We absolutely love this. It's from the same brand, Uttermost as well, and the brand is also Revelation. So this is not a custom piece. This is just something that, again, this company had in their assortment. They're a wholesaler, so you get better prices and more kind of like assortment, more stuff to pick through, if you will. And so we decided on going with kind of like something more leather and warm to complement the all white sectional couch. The next piece of furniture that we have in our living room that we actually bought a little later on after being in the space and figuring out what would work is our TV console. Now, if y'all are like me, a TV console is the bane of your existence, okay? It's really hard to pick one that is right for your space and then find one that makes sense for the length of the space. So our living room is very long width-wise, I guess you could say. So we ended up needing a really, really long TV console. Now, the longer ones were definitely on the expensive side. Talking about like $4,000, $5,000. To me, that's a little crazy. So I wanted to figure out a way that we could get the look for less. And for us, that ended up being where we bought two of the same consoles from Wayfair. These two black consoles that we felt like would really ground the space and make it look more warm and inviting, and kind of be a stark contrast from the white couch to the black console. So a hack is, if you have a longer space to fill up, definitely buy two of the same pieces and just slide them together. It literally looks seamless. We've had folks ask us over and over again, like, how did we find something this long that would make sense for the space? And the hack is to just buy two. It's still cheaper than buying one really, really long one that would have taken up the space that we needed it to. The next most important piece in our home renovation is definitely our TV. Now, this is not a furniture item, but it's still a key item and important to note and talk a little bit about here. So we actually have been through two televisions in this room so far. Our first TV was actually a Sony that we were so excited to get, but it wasn't the right dimensions for our space. It ended up being too small. And so we later on, about a year and a half after living in the space and living with that TV, we were like, okay, we know we need something bigger. And I personally knew that we weren't going to do a ton of art in the living room, so I needed the TV to also be its own piece of art. And so at the time, about 2 or 3 years ago, the Samsung picture frame TV was definitely taking off, and a lot of people were, bragging about them and how amazing they are. And I had never actually really experienced them in our home. We did end up getting a smaller frame for our basement, and I loved how it was down there. And so I figured if we needed a bigger one, that would be what we would make work in the living room. So we ended up getting an 85-inch Samsung picture frame television, and it is everything. It really is a piece of art on its own. As a blank canvas, it looks great on the wall. The wall is so massive, and so it really just helps to ground the space, especially when you have the picture frame function on and highlighted. It's one of my favorite things that the living room has, and I just think it's so, so beautiful, so, so worth it. We did add one custom element to the picture frame, and that is adding what they call the bezel. You can pick whatever kind of like framing of the bezel you want, and so we went with like a oak kind of wood texture for it, and also gives it that effect that it's an actual picture when you have the art up on the TV. So that's one of my favorite key items in our home renovation, and really giving our living room that warm, cozy, and beautiful vibe that I was looking for. And so that did take some time. You have to like figure out little by little what's going to work for your space. We definitely did not start out with this television or this kind of like idea, but over time it made itself clear to us, and so we love it. Step number 4 is add textured rugs. Now, if you go through my whole house and I give y'all a house tour, I have rugs everywhere. I'm obsessed with rugs, especially when you have hardwood flooring. Not only are they beautiful and a statement piece, but they also absorb a lot of sound. They absorb dust and things that are just in the air. And so rugs really do end up being beneficial in like so many spaces in your home. So for me, a rug is definitely something I like to layer. And when you think about layering rugs, you're kind of like, wait, what? But for the living room, our first course of action was to get a custom rug to go with the couch that we had, right? So we wanted a rug that was beautiful, that had a little bit of texture to it, that was wool. We knew everything we wanted about this rug, and so it was perfect. when we put the rug down with the couch, the rug, in my opinion, was too small. And so this is when I came up with the idea of layering rugs and layering textures with the rug. So jute is a type of like material of a rug that you usually would see for like an outdoor space, but I found it to be really beneficial indoor for high traffic areas. And so I decided to get an oversized jute rug to go underneath our just normal wool living room rug. And so far, so good. It has been the perfect addition to the living room. And again, I'm looking for touches that will add warmth to the space, that will ground the space, make it feel lived in. And so adding this jute rug was like the best idea I could have came up with, because I didn't want to get rid of the smaller rug that no longer served us. I just wanted to highlight it in a different way. And so layering rugs, or even just like layering your materials in your living room, like your throws or your pillows, anything that has texture, try to add more of it on top of each other, if that makes sense. Like add a little bit more so that way it feels lived in, it feels cozy, it feels warm, and it feels intentional. And so layering rugs, layering throws, layering pillows, that is definitely a step that will take your living room from just okay to over the top incredible. Step number 5, incorporating plants into your living room space. Now, we definitely started out in the beginning with real plants in our living room. However, real plants sometimes, to me, the juice is not worth the squeeze. They create pests at points in time if you overwater them or underwater them. They're a little tricky. So I always really love having a plant as a focal point that is a faux plant that you don't have to maintain at all. And so as you can see right behind me, this is our faux plant that we got pretty much as soon as we moved into this home. We had like a registry for housewarming gifts, and I remember putting this on the registry, like, as long as we have one little plant in the living room, we're going to be all right. We can start off with that. And so I think it came from like overstock, but nowadays you can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Wayfair, you can get them literally anywhere. We had a birds of paradise plant in our apartment for over like 4 years that grew from a little baby IKEA plant to actually about this size. It grew to like 7 feet. It was like touching the ceiling. And so I could not take that plant with us when we moved, and unfortunately had to get rid of her, but I wanted to like recreate that vibe as a nod to our apartment life together. And so when I saw this plant, I had to have it. And so throughout our home, we do faux plants, we do faux stems, we do things like that to really add warmth to the space. And I definitely recommend mixing faux with real. In the front of our home, I have 2 fiddle figs that are real, and I also have an olive tree, which is faux. So I like to mix real and fake plants together to just create ambiance, to create a vibe, to create a warm feeling in the space. So definitely pick and choose which one is going to work for you, but I definitely recommend some greenery. I recommend plants to really elevate your living room space. Step number 6 is all about lighting. Now, I have to admit that in this step, I could do a better job of adding more ambient light to our living room. We have 2 different types of lighting in our living room. We do have an overhead fan that has a kind of like dimmable, I should call it, a dimmable light that's already attached to the fan. So that is more of a vibe mood light, if you will. And then we also have LED lights in the ceiling, about 4 or 5 of them in the ceiling. So that is definitely going to light the whole spot up and give you a ton of brightness if you need it. But usually in this space, we kind of really need like more like lamp lighting. And so that is something that is still on my list 3 years later, to find a lamp that is going to work for this space so that we have a little bit more ambiance, if you will. But lighting is really, really important in the living room, and you want a couple of different lighting options. And so that's going to give you a vibe, that's going to give you warmth, that's going to give you a feeling of coziness, an elevated feeling, if you will, by having different lighting options and being able to layer them for whatever you might need. So if you're on the couch, you might want a standing lamp right next to you. Right now, We have a bunch of little toddlers running around, so standing lamps aren't necessarily going to work in this season of life for us. And so being able to keep the lights up and out of the way is what is the priority in our living room at the current moment. But I am a lamp girl, and I could totally see, and I'll put it on the screen, one of those like standing lamps that kind of like come over the chair a little bit. So like if you're here and you're like reading a little book, you have that vibey light next to you, or even behind the couch. One day I would love to put like a console and then add like behind the couch lamps as well. But again, smaller things like that are like on the ground, they just don't work for our function that we need the living room to like operate as right now. And so later on for the floor lighting for us. But for now, we have our ceiling mood light with the fan, and then we also have our LED lights in the ceiling. We have made it. This is the last and arguably the most important step. So adding personal touches. Now, this is a living room, people. We live in this space. This is where we spend the majority of our time. And so it's really important to figure out the personal touches that you want to add to your space. For me, I don't like putting a lot of holes in the walls, okay? If you're out there and you've made it this far in the comments, write down below in the comments if you love putting some nails in the wall. I definitely don't mind a few photos up on the wall. I actually don't even mind photos kind of like leaning on the wall. And so I wanted to do a gallery wall on a wall that was kind of like facing our living room and kind of enclosed the living room from the front of the home. And so a gallery wall is the first project I tackled. And it's definitely a quick, easy way to modernize a wall and give it a, cohesive statement while also adding personal touches. I did a gallery wall of our wedding photos, and I put all the photos in a black and white filter so that they basically had the same look and feel. Now, this wall, still not done, y'all. Still not done. So many ideas that I have for this space. I am a huge, huge wallpaper lover. And so I think the next step of this project is basically canvassing this wall in wallpaper, then redoing the frames, if you will, and basically coming up with a even more robust kind of like art wall of photos, not just our wedding, but just a family of friends, of our travels, etc. And possibly putting even like sconces on the wall, like little lighting sconces. So that project, we'll tackle that maybe in 2025. Come back for that project. But I definitely see this wall, being iterative and being able to go through different seasons with our design process. But that is definitely one of the first things I did, was to add a personal touch to the wall with those sacred memories to us. I also love to style little nooks. I don't like to overstyle because I'm a minimalist, but when I find like a beautiful vase, or I find something that is structural or really pretty that I can kind of like group in threes together, I also really like doing that. And so those are some of my personal touches that I like to add to our living room space to make it look cute and cozy and elevated. Those are my special touches, and you can definitely do that in your space as well. Some of the places that I go to for some of my styled items include Hobby Lobby, Target, and Walmart. Sometimes it depends on the season, but I really like to keep the styled items on the affordable side because you kind of like go through those so frequently. Very rarely is a styled item something that like you're going to hold on to forever. You kind of want to swap them out. So I try to either find them on sale. I try to go to Amazon, kind of keep it mid-range for those investment pieces, but try to add personal touches where you can in the living room because it's really going to be the game changer. Also, for personal touches, I am a seasonal girly. If you have been here for a little bit now, you know that because I have been in fall for many weeks now. But I love to definitely switch out the seasonal decor in the living room. So whether it's with a cozier throw and a deeper color, or within the fireplace, I like to do a garland within like a burgundy tone to add to the warmth of the space. And I also like to just do seasonal candles, seasonal things that will make the space feel fresh and new again. But all of that goes with modernizing your living room and making it feel as unique and as beautiful to you. And so if you're a seasonal girly like me, then I know your home is probably ready for autumn and your living room probably feels like Twilight or the Gilmore Girls. And I love that for you. So by following these simple 7 steps, you can transform your living room into the living room of your dreams. When I first walked into this space, I had no idea that this was going to be the living room of my dreams, and it absolutely has turned out to be that. And we didn't even do much. We really just tried to make the space as unique to us as possible and make it modern, make it beautiful, make it light, make it airy, make it timeless. And those are the things that we did a little at a time as we went through our time living in the space and figured out what we liked along the way. But these simple steps will definitely get you there. If you're in the middle of a renovation, if you're thinking about a renovation, if you just want your living room to be fresh, new, and different, definitely tell me in the comments below which one of these steps you're going to try out first, and come back and let me know how it worked out for you.